People walking like they think they important. I'm not supporting. They showing they true colors when they talking. I'm aborting. It's exhausting that I'm caught in the moment with rappers flowing like.
Kyle Franklin, owner and manager of Franklin Flying Circuits. He is a legend himself at Aerobatics, and I got the pleasure of interviewing him.
All right.
Oh, is it recording? All right. Sorry, perhaps likes to lag out on me. All right, so.
That's all right.
All right. Being the son of legendary Kyle, Jimmy Franklin, and being able to do the stuff that he was doing, what is it like for you?
Oh, it's a lot of fun doing the air show thing, and of course growing up in this business and having my father Jimmy Franklin as he was from the time I was a little kid. I knew my dad was pretty big when it came to air shows, and he was one of the best out there, and I was always very proud of my father and everything he had accomplished. And so that was one reason when I was 12 years old I started traveling with him to every show. From the time, basically, as soon as I finished my last final in school, I was on the airline to meet up wherever he was, and then was with him for my entire summer, and then the airline back in about a week before school started. So, I spent as much time as I could with him on the road and living the air show stuff. And then I started that when I was 12, and then, of course, did my first wing walk when I was 14. And that was just for fun. We showed up to a show early, and I'd been bugging him wanting to try it. And then, I finally convinced him I was strong enough to go and do it. And it was just one of those things. I just, been there, done that. It was just something I wanted to try. And then, of course, years later, when I was 17, I started wing walking for him professionally at air shows. And that was really cool, being able to actually be part of the show with my father. I mean, my father, he's my father, but he was also my best friend. And I had a lot of fun over the years flying with him, wing walking, and traveling with him every year from the time I was 12 years old.
Also, I want to be in the Air Force and stuff, and I want to be in aerobatics and in the air shows and stuff. So what really got you into aerobatics and flying and all that?
Well, what got me into the aerobatics, of course, was mainly my father, because, for the last 47 years now, this is all this side of my family is pretty much done as air shows. I mean, at least my dad and me. My uncle did air shows for many, many years, and he finally wised up and got a job with Southwest Airlines and has been with them for like 30 years. But my dad continued to do air showing, and air showing was all that he did. He didn't have a real job, so to say. He wasn't an airline pilot or did anything else. All he did full-time was air shows. So for me, I grew up around it all the time, and it was just something I naturally got into. It was just something I grew up with. And my situation's a little different than most, say like yours and everything. If you're wanting to get into it, if you're wanting to do Air Force, that's phenomenal. That's great. You can use the Air Force to get a lot of your ratings and get all your training and everything, but they don't exactly teach aerobatic flying. Mm-hmm. When it comes down to that, you'd probably be better. You can come to Greg Kuntz or Michael Goulian. They have schools, and mm-hmm. I do a little bit of training myself. More the training I do is more just not so much aerobatic flying, because I don't have, other than my air show airplanes, I don't have aerobatic trainer airplanes. I use my Super Cub to do kind of advanced pilot training. Mm-hmm. Basically, I teach pilots how to fly. What people that already kind of know the basics and everything, I teach them not to be afraid of the airplane, and what the airplanes can really do, so they're more comfortable with the airplane. But there's quite a few different people out there that can teach you aerobatics, and not many people do the way my dad and I did. More or less, my dad taught himself aerobatics from a book. He
really cool.
Got a book and went up, read how to do certain maneuvers, and went up in the PA-14 family cruiser and started doing aerobatics in it, which wasn't exactly the best airplane for aerobatic flying. But and even in my own case, I had my dad. He taught me the basics, like loop, roll, hammerhead, things like that in our Super Cub. But when it came to a lot of the advanced training stuff, I just went from the Super Cub into the Waco, and the Waco was only a single seater, and so I just had practiced a lot in the Cub on how I thought the Waco was going to fly. And once I got the basic flying down on the Waco, I went up and started doing aerobatics, and I more or less, either from what my dad had just kind of told me or from what I just kind of knew on how to do maneuvers, I just kind of do them, and I knew what they were supposed to be. So if I came out of something and it was like, okay, that's not the way this is supposed to work, I need to do this. And in some maneuvers, like whenever I started doing the Lumshavak and the flat inverted spin, before I did my first flat inverted spin, I asked my dad, I was like, how do I get out of that maneuver? Well, what do I do? I know how to get it into it, but what are you doing on inputs to get out of it? And he kind of sat there for a second, think, I don't know, I just do it. Like, well, I'd like to know how you do it. So he actually had to go get in the airplane, go up and do a flat inverted spin and pay attention to what he was doing. And then he was like, all right, you opposite rudder, power off, back, and telling me how to do it. And then it was a matter of me just going up and doing it myself. And so that was a lot of my aerobatic training. Was some of it was teaching myself, just practicing, but also I had a really good airplane there. The Waco was a very good flying airplane. It was a very safe airplane in a lot of ways. If as soon as the nose was down, the airplane was flying again, so it was kind of easy to keep yourself out of trouble. Some of the Pitzes and the monoplanes now, if you do something wrong with them, they can get into things that are a little tricky.
Yeah, my dad owns a Pitts, and
oh yeah,
and,
cool.
He's told me a lot of stuff about it, and like not to do anything wrong, because if you do, it's so hard to not kill yourself if you do anything wrong. Yeah,
and of course, altitude is your friend. All these times, whenever I was teaching myself how to do all this stuff, or asking my dad, and then going and trying it, I was up 7,000 feet. So if anything happens, I got lots of room to get out of the maneuver. Or if the maneuver doesn't come out, I've still got lots of room to bail out and get out of the airplane. So it's it's good to start off. You don't rush yourself. Anything you're doing on aerobatic wise, you just stay where you're comfortable, and the more practice and the more time you get with it, the better off you'll eventually get in it. But you just don't want to rush those things. You don't get an aerobatic airplane and think, okay, now I'm a big aerobatic pilot, and go out there and start flying in the weeds, because it takes a lot of practice.
Also heard, I've been doing a lot of research on you for my paper too, so that I could get a lot about you. And I saw that your dad taught you how to fly at 8. Is that true?
Yeah, I learned to fly at 8 years old, actually in the Super Cub that I still do my comedy routine in. That is the airplane I learned to fly in when I was 8 years old. And, of course, my dad used the airplane for whenever he did the comedy routine and motorcycle to airplane transfer and things like that. But mainly when I was younger to learn to fly. And my goal was to solo when I was 10. My dad soloed when he was 12. My uncle soloed when he was 11. So my goal was to beat them both. But my dad was more than willing to let me go out and solo myself at 10. He said, "You're good. You can go." But kind of when you're 10 years old, you're still a little nervous on things.
Edgy.
A little nervous. So I never did it, and then when I turned 13, I got into motorcycles and cars a little bit more, and my flying kind of fell to the wayside, and I was more into motorcycles and cars and things. So I didn't do as much flying. So I waited until I was legal. I waited till I was 16 to solo. But yeah, I've been flying that Cub since I was 8 years old.
That's awesome. Now, as far as aerobatics and stuff, when did you really start doing basic maneuvers? My dad, he's let me go up in a Cessna, and he just let me stall it once. That's really the only aerobatic maneuver I've really done. It's not really anything aerobatics, but when did you start?
Well, that time period from when I was about 8 to 10 years old. Like I said, my dad was teaching me. In the Cub, basically about the only maneuvers you can really do safely in it is I can do a snap roll, a loop, a roll, and a hammerhead. And those 4 basic maneuvers is about all you can do in the Super Cub. And those were pretty much what I had learned in that. And that was the extent of my aerobatic training in that airplane. I've other than doing a couple of rolls in the Blanca Super Viking we had and things like that, that was about the extent of my aerobatic training from that period. And then when I was about, what was it, man, 18, I think yeah, I guess I was about 18 when I started flying the Waco. And once I started flying the Waco, like I said, I kind of started teaching myself a lot of the maneuvers because I knew that I'd watched my dad fly for years. And another benefit I had on this was all those years of riding the wing and everything, I know what the airplane's supposed to feel like and the speeds we enter at and what everything looks like from riding out on the wing. So that was a real benefit to me, aerobatic-wise, was I already knew what everything was supposed to look like. So that really made a big difference there.
Yeah. So, like, also being, like, the youngest, also, when you were, like, the youngest wing walker out there, and, like, what is it like to be like that? What was it like to be the youngest wing walker, sorry, and what was it like to be the only wing walker on a jet?
It was a lot of fun. I mean, that whole story behind how all that kind of came about was just a fluke. I had never planned on full wing walking full time, much less at 17. We did a show in Australia, and the wing walker my dad had at the time, they'd already booked a full season, and the first one was in Australia, and I went with my dad to that show just so I could go to Australia, and we went over there. And after the show, my dad told the wing walker, "Hey, I'll see you in a month at El Toro." And he's like, "No, I don't think so." And he's like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "I don't feel like doing this anymore."
Oh.
"You don't want to do wing walking anymore?" And so, anyways, the wing walker quit at the beginning of a season. We had all these shows booked, and of course, I was still in high school. And anyways, we discussed it for a while. He called. There's not that many wing walkers, especially even at that time, in the air show business. And he called all the other ones he knew. They were all busy with other projects, and a couple of them could pick up a few shows here and there, but didn't have enough. So I told him, "Well, I'm already trained, and I can do it for this season until we find somebody else to replace me." And he had to think on that for a week or two. He wasn't real keen about putting his only son up on the wing of the airplane.
Yeah.
But he and I sat down and we had a long discussion about the risks involved with doing this and everything. And of course, I lost my grandfather and my dad's dad in 91 in an airplane accident. Kind of air show related. It wasn't at an air show, but kind of air show related. So, I knew then what the risks involved in this business were, and I was comfortable with it, and so I actually did my very first professional wing walk on Father's Day weekend, 1997 and 17, and it was really cool, especially, like I said, being able to do that with my father on Father's Day, and then, of course, becoming world's youngest professional wing walker, and then once we put the jet engine on the airplane, that was pretty cool to do that, and once again be the world's only jet wing walker. Some people say that the Human Fly, I don't know if you've looked him up at all, but the Human Fly, he actually did a wing ride on top of I forget what kind of it was an airline jet, I forget which one it was, but people always get misconstrued on wing walking and wing riding. If you're just strapped on top of the airplane and you're there for the entire flight and you never move, you're wing riding. If you actually move around, unbuckle, and go from top to bottom or do tricks on the wings or something, that's wing walking. So that was how I was world's first jet wing walker. And that was cool. It was a lot of fun. And, for me, in some ways, it wasn't that big of a deal. It was cool, but this is what I've grown up in and been around my entire life. So it was just another day at the office, I guess you could say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, also, what is the new plane you have now, Dracula, like?
Dracula, the new airplane, it's a bad airplane. It's a lot of fun. This is something my dad and I started on 9 years ago, and this was set up. This was going to be my airplane when we started on it, and it's essentially the Waco, but 20% smaller. So, but with a more powerful engine on the nose of it, has almost full span ailerons, top and bottom. The tail's a little bit, it's only about 15% smaller. So the goal was to have an airplane that had that look, sound, and appeal, the old 1930s barnstorming biplane, but yet the capabilities of some of the modern Pizzas and monoplanes. And pretty much we've more or less accomplished that. I mean, the airplane, well, my Waka would roll about 90 degrees per second. And the Dracula will roll at almost 300 degrees per second.
Oh, nice.
So it's a big improvement there.
Oh, yeah.
And some things on it are better, some things aren't as good as the Waka was. It's kind of give and take, but all in all, I've been very pleased with the airplane, and it flies like I'd hoped, and it's everything that we had hoped it would be. And I hope to get it out there more next year, you know, with the air show season kind of cut down due to sequestration and everything. I'm hoping to have it out there more next year, and everybody gets to see it more, because it's a beautiful airplane too. The paint job we put on it, it's a mean looking airplane from the air.
Yeah, I really like the Dracula. It's probably probably now, since Mystery Ship is gone and stuff. But I did hear you're rebuilding it. Is that true?
Yeah, I'm rebuilding the Mystery Ship. It's going to be kind of a long, slow process. You know, hopefully it won't be 9 years like Dracula was, but, you know, when it comes to this stuff, again, air shows, that's all I do full-time for a living, so it's all time and money and how much money I have to throw at the thing. And but the Waco, all the airframe, what little airframe damage was done to it has all been repaired. The wings are 30% complete. And other than that, the tail section and everything else is pretty much fine. It just all needs to be recovered with fabric and repainted. So, you know, hopefully another couple of years I'll have it back up and going, because that airplane did, you know, a lot of years in the air show industry, and I'm not letting it end its career on this note. At least it will fly again one of these years. But yeah, it was a cool airplane, and it will be rebuilt.
Yeah, I did hear that in one of your interviews on YouTube. A year later, after you lost Amanda, which is really unfortunate. She was amazing, and that you said that plane was in 60 years, and I saw that, and I was amazed.
Yeah, I mean it had been around a long time. I mean that essentially some parts of that airplane, essentially that is in a lot of ways the airplane my dad started air showing in, because my dad started air showing in 1967, and some parts of that airplane are from that original airplane. And so that airplane's been around a long time, and it became the Waco Mystery Ship in 1975, I think, 5 or 6. 1976 is when it actually became the Waco Mystery Ship, had all the modifications done to it, and had the black and silver and red paint scheme put on it, and that was when became our family colors. And so everybody's seen that airplane in that configuration since 76, and like I said, it's been around a long time. We're going to get it back up and flying.
Yeah, I can't wait for that. Also, on the more depressing side, what was it like losing Amanda in that?
Well, it was hard. I mean, she's my wife, but she's my business manager, my best friend at the time. Everything. I mean, she was everything to me there. I mean, we were together 24/7 and worked together, and it was a real blow in this. I mean, whenever she first wanted to start wing walking professionally, I was fairly reluctant to let her do that. You know, again, it was kind of one of those situations why she wanted to go and do wing walking. I figured, all right, well, we'll get you up there and let you say you've done it and let her have some fun. But when she said she wanted to start doing it full time, you know, I had kind of the same conversation as my dad had with her, about the risks involved in this. And it was always one of those things, though, even through everything that happened, I figured if anybody was going to get hurt or killed doing this, it was going to be me. I mean, that's one reason we always did the solo routine first instead of the wing walking routine, because I was a lot more aggressive in the solo routine. I pulled a lot more G's, and I always figured if anything's wrong with the airplane or anything's going to happen, it's going to happen in my solo routine. Because the wing walking routine in some ways was a lot simpler. I didn't pull near as many G's. We didn't go near as fast, so it was a lot easier on the airplane. And, I just always figured if anything had happened, it'd hopefully happen in the solo routine. And that was what was irritating. One of the things that bothers me the most is that that day I had flown my solo an hour earlier, and the airplane was running fine, running perfect, didn't have any problems. And, if it quit then, it wouldn't have been as big of a deal. And even in my accident with Amanda there, it would have, if the damn thing had just quit, 10 seconds earlier or 15 seconds later, I could have landed it on the runway. It's just it quit at the worst possible time. And but Amanda did. We both went through our emergency procedures perfectly as we had trained. Amanda was lightning fast getting down off the top wing, and everything. All of our emergency procedures we had put in place, we went through perfectly. It's just one I didn't have in those procedures, which we've fixed a lot of now, though, was shutting that stupid smoke system off. Because we found out, a couple weeks later when I got out of the hospital and I got home and saw the airplane. As soon as I walked into the hangar and I saw it, I knew it was a smoke oil fire. Everybody was saying, "Oh, it was gas. He had gasoline and this and that." And I was racking my brain while I was in the hospital, like, how could gas have gotten on her, this and that? And even the doctor was telling me if she'd been drenched in gas, she wouldn't be alive. And as soon as I walked in, I saw it was smoke oil fire, and that's really irritating. That in all my procedures, I didn't think to, it's one switch that was right next to my finger, and it's like all that one switch could have possibly changed the whole outcome of that. And so, it's lots of what ifs and woulda, shoulda, coulda stuff, but I mean, it's been hard, but she knew the risks involved, same as we always do, and we know the risks involved in this, and she knew better than anybody else between losing her father and me losing mine that what's involved in this, and there is risk, but she enjoyed the wing walking, she enjoyed entertaining just like I do, and that's what she wanted to do, and doesn't make things any easier, but I'm still here, and I have to continue on with my life, and hopefully get to see her again here sometime.
Well, sorry for making you remember that. I didn't really.
That's all right.
That's why I checked with you first, so that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's all right. I mean, it's Amanda was an amazing woman, and she was amazing in everything she did. She was pilot, wing walker, business manager. I mean, she was a business manager. She helped her dad a lot whenever she was like 12, 13 years old in the office doing things. And a lot of people don't realize that, but she became me and Matt's manager when she was 19, I believe. Yeah, she was 19 when she started managing us both. And Matt and I both would not be where we are today had it not been for Amanda. Yeah, I give her a lot of credit for that.
Yeah, I saw that on that video that I mentioned earlier about the interview on YouTube. That you said that she was your manager. Then I looked up over at Matt's page, at Matt's airshow page, and I saw that she was she was his manager too, and I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, doing air shows, especially for a full-time living, is a full-time job. I mean, it's not like in some ways I wish I had a 9-to-5 job, because it'd be nice to go to work 9 to 5, come home and leave work at work and come home. But when you're doing air shows full-time, I go to bed thinking about this stuff, and if I'm not working on the airplanes, I'm on the phone trying to book shows. And when Amanda was doing a lot of that stuff for Matt and me, it was a full-time job on her part, and she did a phenomenal job. And you ask any of the show promoters that she would talk to, I've had some tell her, she's very persistent, you know, and she's very good at what she does. I'm like, yep, I know that. And because there was one show she was determined to get into, and they wouldn't hardly give us the time of day. And he'll say, we finally did the show, and he was the one that was told me that. It's like, she's very persistent. I'm like, yes, she is. So yeah, that's she was an amazing woman in many ways.
Right. So let's get away from the depression side.
Okay. All right. That's all right.
What did anyone like really nag you to get into the air show business, or did you like just want to do it like I do? Like you just saw your dad doing it and you're like, this is really cool, and just got into it?
Yeah. No one ever really. My dad, especially, never pushed me to get into the air show industry or anything. I think he always kind of figured I'd wind up doing something else with cars anyways, but he never pushed me into the air show industry. He never pushed me to learn to fly even. I mean, this was all of my own accord, and whenever he, if I said I wanted to go fly, we'd go fly, but he never really pushed me into learning to fly and never ever pushed me into air shows. It's, I had to twist his arm for him to let me wing walk. And then from that point, I just kind of naturally got into it. I enjoyed the wing walking, but there was a year or so there that I took off part of the season to go back to college, and because I'm like, I'm not going to make wing walking an entire career. And then I got working more on my flying and my aerobatic flying and doing the comedy act. So the comedy act was what I kind of came back out with, and we were working on Dracula. We're hoping we're going to get it finished. Then maybe my dad and I could do a dual act. And, we just had all these different ideas. And it's just being around it my entire life. I just kind of naturally got into it. It's in my blood. It's just what I naturally did. But no one ever really pushed me into it. And, it's just, I just got into it and enjoy it for the most part. I mean, it's I sometimes say being in this full time, it's a hard way to make an easy living, but I do enjoy it. I enjoy the flying, and I enjoy performing performing for my fans, and that's one of the main thing that keeps me going in this business is all of my fans and people that tell me how much they enjoy what I do, and it's like you calling me here to do this. This is very honored to do this. I'm very happy to do this because, you guys, especially if you're wanting to get into air shows, we're discussing this now, is I don't see the air show industry lasting much longer. There's not that many young people getting into air shows, and we've got to try to make that more because I'm 33 now, and I'm still one of the youngest in the business. And I'm like, that's really sad when I'm 33 and I'm still one of the younger people. Kevin Coleman is I think he is the youngest in the business. I think he's 21 now or something like that. But other than that, I don't know many other young performers getting into the business. So we definitely need to get people into flying in general. And if you want to do aerobatic flying, we definitely need to get them out there.
Yeah, I think that we do need to get aviation a bigger shot too, because aviation has really died down. The industry has died down, I've seen, and I do know a few friends that like aviation, but like I'm the friend that's over there that's basically the nerd of.
Nothing wrong with that. It's so hard now for so many people. They between the cost of fuel and the ridiculous cost of airplanes and maintaining them. I mean, that's like every year I hope to, like I say, you want to do air shows, get a real good high-paying job, and then, that'll pay for your air show flying. Don't try to do like I've done and make a full career out of air shows because it's very up and down. And, every year I'm just hoping I can maybe break even on stuff because every time I start to make a little bit of money, the airplanes say, oh, you're making a little money. We need to fix that. And something breaks and I got to go back and spend it all.
Yeah, I've seen the thing where my dad, he's going to go up, and then next thing we know, something is broken with the plane or something. We're grounded for like 3 more hours or something.
Yeah, Well, I was at the airport for most of the morning today working on Dracula and trying to get a couple little things fixed out. I've got shows coming up here in a couple of weeks, and I've got to go to Memphis, Tennessee, then all the way out to Sacramento, California. So trying to make sure all the equipment's ready and getting the airplanes ready to go. So once I get to shows, there's no problems, no issues. And
Yeah.
But none of it's ever. It's the thing. They're never really major problems. They're just always little irritants that you gotta. I need to fix that before we go fly.
What was your first ever well, I think I already said this, but just in case, I haven't had my real first aerobatic ride yet. My dad, his pits is only a single seat, and it's almost been 13 years, and I've been nagging my dad to get me up in the air with aerobatics.
Get a two-seater pit, right?
Yeah, he actually got a two-seater KR2. And he needs to get that. He's doing some modifications to it though, and so he needs to get that to work. But I've been nagging my dad. We have a friend that has a two-seat Statiker, and I've been like, come on, he can take me. He's even said that he'd take me too. So airplanes is definitely one of my passions, one of my hobbies.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, okay.
All right, we're back. I kind of forgot what question we left at.
When did I first do actual airbatic?
Yeah, that's what it was.
As I was saying, I did my first time flying when I was 4 weeks old, and then I probably did some basic, some rolls or something in the Aerostar with my dad. But the first time I ever actually did real hardcore aerobatics, I'm guessing around 12 years old. And it was with Wayne Hanley in the Raven, his Raven at the time. Never done any tumbling style maneuvers or anything, really violent maneuvers, tumbles or torque rolls, tail slides, different things like that. Because all the airplanes we have, the Waco was a single seater. Dad said it was okay.
Oh, never mind.
Oh no.
All right.
Here. All right. Okay.
Okay, so yeah, you left off on the Raven thing.
I flying with Wayne Hanley, I'd ever done any real gyroscopic and some serious aerobatic maneuvers because the Waco was a single-seater and we didn't have, we didn't have a pits or anything that was really good for aerobatics. It was my first time doing real aerobatics. Other than that, just basic aerobatics here and there, and then I guess also when I was 14, I went and did that wing walk. We did quite a bit with me up on the wing that first time up on the wing ride, or we were at a show in Canada, and I got bugging my dad to go and do it, and we took off with me in the front cockpit, which was just a hole in the front cockpit. There's no controls or anything, and climbed up about 2,000 feet. I got out, got on the top wing, and then I was only up there about 30 seconds, and he kind of shook the wings like, everything okay? And I gave him a signal, let's do some aerobatics. And so we did, gave him loop rolls, hammerheads, point rolls, and a couple of different things with me on the top wing. So, I had a little bit of aerobatic stuff off and on all through my teenage years before I really started flying full-time in the Waco. So, that's about the extent of a lot of my serious aerobatic stuff.
Yeah, I don't really know if there's anything else to say. I want to.
Yeah.
What was your dad like and everything with the aerobatics? Like they're naming him the legendary and stuff, which I think he really was. He was from the videos I've seen of him.
Yeah, you want a little bit of history on that. My dad's history, God, I could go on forever, but it's really interesting, and you talk about, I call it destiny, or they were born to do this. My father was hands down, he was born to fly. His father, my grandfather, was actually a farmer and a rancher. The farm and the ranch were 30 miles apart. My grandfather was a self-taught pilot at 16. And he basically used an airplane like most people do a pickup truck. He used it to fly back and forth from the farm and the ranch, hauling fence posts, cattle feed, and different things like that. And that's how my dad learned to fly, was sitting on his lap while still in diapers, flying back and forth from the farm and the ranch. And my dad was kind of the same way as I was by the time he was about 8 years old, he knew how to fly. And he was home alone when he was 12 years old and got bored and decided to go fly, and he went out and soloed himself while he was home alone. And that year, or that age, 12 years old, was a real pivoting point in his life because he soloed that year. He went to his first air show that same year and saw Harold Cryer and Charlie Hillard perform, and made the decision right then that that's what he wanted to do with his life, was become an air show pilot. He came home and got a bunch of antique airplane magazines, and he was looking through one of them, and the centerfold in it was a 1940 Waco UPF-7 biplane. And he just thought that was the coolest looking airplane he had ever seen. And he pulled it out of the magazine, put it up on his wall. His mom eventually framed it for him and everything. And I actually still have that same picture down in the basement on the wall downstairs. And anyways, and jump ahead a couple of years, I think he was maybe 17 or 18, forget which. But he went to another air show as a spectator. And as they were leaving the air show, they saw in the back hangar there, they saw this airplane. But that looks kind of familiar, and they went back there and looked at it, and it was a 1940 Waco UPF-7. Turns out it's the exact same airplane in number 2369 Quebec that he had hanging on his wall in that newspaper or that magazine centerfold. And they wound up buying it on the spot for, I think it was $4,500. Bought it on the spot, flew it home, and that very next year, my father started doing air shows full time in the stock Waco UPF-7, and that basically started his 38-year career in the air show industry. And he was a very quiet man in a lot of ways. He was just amazing pilot, natural. A lot of people said, he didn't fly an airplane, he wore the airplane. It just became a part of him. And in his 38-year career, he did over 23 different air show routines in over 10 different airplanes. And another neat thing, you talk about destiny and different things, is 2369 Quebec was the airplane he saw when he was 12 years old in that magazine. Bought it when he was 19, I believe, or 18 or 19, and that was the airplane he was in whenever he died. So it's kind of interesting how it went full cycle, that airplane, because that 2369 Quebec is actually the airplane that became the Jet Waco, and it was also the Waco 600 and all throughout the years. So it's kind of a interesting, and he was definitely born to fly, but he was in some ways, he's a very quiet man. He just loved to fly.
Yeah, that's a really good story and very detailed and stuff. And like you said, talk about destiny and stuff. Finding 239er, that's awesome.
Yeah, it was neat. And then other things. He did the solo routine for many years, and then him and a bunch of his high school buddies, they did the world's first motorcycle to airplane transfer in 1973. People had been doing car to plane transfers, but no one had ever done a motorcycle. And of course, they were all teenagers or early 20s, and they'd been riding motorcycles for years, and so they started trying to use the motorcycle, and got some interesting pictures of that. They did that, and then obviously you're too young probably to know about it, but if you ever saw the mid 80s up until the early 90s, my dad did an act called Czar with a twin engine airplane.
I know about Czar. I've done a lot of stuff about Czar. I've seen some videos. I finally got up and I was like, Czar. I do look at when I look at your website, I do actually look at it and go through the history of Franklin's Flying Circus, and I looked at Czar, and I'm like, I'm going to look at some videos, and that was really cool.
Yeah, I mean, through the years, there's not many people, especially people that did air shows with twin engine airplanes. My dad, Bob Hoover, Bobby Younkin, Matt Younkin, And I think there's a couple more I'm forgetting, but there's not many people that ever did anything with a twin. And what another interesting story here. My dad came up with Tsar in the early '80s after seeing Star Wars. When the first Star Wars came out, he realized this is going to be very popular among young people, and he was trying to, kind of like what I do, is trying to bring young people to air shows and find a new level of entertainment for air shows where it's not just a standard flying. And so his first thought was, at the time he had 3 Wacos, and his 2 were flying, 1 was basically a parts airplane. But he decided that he was going to he could take one of them, chop the wings on it, put a space age looking gun on top, and put a jet engine in between the landing gear. And this is in the early '80s, and everybody he talked to was like, he's talking to aeronautical engineers and everything about putting a jet engine on the bottom of the Waco, and they're like, Jimmy, I wouldn't do that if I were you. And so, anyways, long story short on that, he always wanted an Aerostar anyway, so he bought the Aerostar, and that became Tsar's airplane. And I'll have to look up my records again, but I think he debuted that in '83 or '84, and it wound up becoming the most popular act in the air show circuit. That was whenever he won the very first Art Scholl Showmanship Award in 1986 for Tsar. And go on, Rambo. And so, that was a very popular act, and the kids absolutely loved it. Mm-hmm. And, that was one of the acts he was most well known for, along with doing the Waco and the wing walking and everything. And so, going with that heritage and everything I had learned, that was whatever, after my father passed away, and we did the comedy routine, and we brought back the motorcycle to airplane transfer and did that. And when I decided I was, all right, we're going to get the Waco Mystery Ship back out, I was trying to figure out what's a way to set me apart from other big biplane acts, or in other acts in general, to be something unique and different, and something really entertaining that everybody would love. And I was sitting there watching TV, and Pirates of the Caribbean came on, and I was like, there's not very many kids acts in the air show business anymore, period. And the airplane's already called the Waco Mystery Ship, and anyways, seeing Pirates on TV, that just kind of got the ball rolling. And within the next 4 or 5 months there, I debuted Pirated Skies as a solo routine at first at Oshkosh. I debuted Pirated Skies, and then from there continued to grow, and then we finally switched Pirated Skies strictly over to the wing walking thing when I came up with the idea for that sword pass, having the swords. I just thought, boy, that's going to be a cool thing. And the story behind it, Matt Youngkin helped a lot with the story. He's a phenomenal writer. I gave him all the ideas, like, this is the direction I want to go, and he came back with put the story together. So anyways, Pirated Skies turned out to be a very popular thing among all the generations, from kids all the way up to the older people. And that one I knew, that was, especially when Amanda took over the wing walking and everything, I was like, this is solid gold here. This is really, really something special, especially having Amanda doing the wing walking. And she and I had been trying to get Dracula finished throughout this time period too. And I knew the vampire thing, I figured, vampires are extremely popular now, and especially in the younger culture and everything. I figured this is going to be something that'll go pretty good. I don't know if it'll go as well as the Pirates, but when I was a kid, the 2 things I loved more than anything were pirates and vampires. So I worked both those things in from my childhood into my air show business. Yeah, that's really cool. I could be 33 years old and I'm still dressing up as a pirate or a vampire. So,
as you can probably, I think I put this in my Amanda Franklin memorial that I'm pretty sure that you saw, because I sent it to you, and I think you replied back. I think I put in there that a video clip that I found on YouTube. You said not really many people get to say they've been a pirate and stuff, and I thought that was a really cool line and one of my favorites.
Yeah, well, it is. I mean, the air show industry is really strange in some ways. Like when my dad came out with Tsar, a lot of people thought it was stupid and like this is never going to go anywhere. This has no fit for the air show industry. And like I said, it turned out to be one of the most popular acts in the air show industry. And we actually had the same thing when I came up with the pirate idea. Is a lot of my air show buddies were like looking at me dressing up as a pirate and like, what are you doing, man? This is stupid. And then they see the reaction from the kids in the crowd and everything, and my buddy's saying, okay, maybe you do have something here. So it's it's very strange business. Everybody's real reluctant to anything new or change, something different. But then once they see some of this works, that it really gets going. I mean, it was same way with when my dad, Bobby, and Jim and all of them came up with the Masters of Disaster and everything. I mean, that was the wildest act to ever hit the air show industry. And so it's we're always this side of air shows between Youngkins, Franklins, and some of us in this. We're always trying to come up with bigger and better ideas and better ways to entertain and to show everybody something different that they haven't seen, and to try to bring young people and even people that don't really have any interest in flying or air shows, but to give them something different to where they still want to come out and see it and say, you can watch the flying, but it has an added effect, between like the pirates and now the vampires. Mm-hmm. You have a story, you got costumes, all these different things, and it adds more to the show, and it just, I consider myself an entertainer more than a pilot. Yeah. I mean, flying I do, but I come to air shows to entertain. Entertain the people that come out there. That's why they came out, to be entertained, and that's what I want to do, is entertain them.
I think I do like having like a story behind stuff, and especially air shows. I think that's really cool to like have a story of being pirates or being, and yeah. Another question is that I want to ask you. Like at Oshkosh, like only really the best of the best perform. That is what I've heard, and it's really what happens. What is it like to be at Oshkosh knowing that you're there and you're good enough to be there?
Oh, it's a real honor to be able to fly Oshkosh, and whenever you get there and your first time performing there, it's a little overwhelming in some ways because I mean there's hundreds of thousands of people there, and the way Oshkosh is done up, you have to be invited to fly there, and they consider only the best of the best. So yeah, it's a real honor to be able to fly Oshkosh and to go there, and it's been great these past years being able to go there, and I appreciate them, and I hope to be back there next year again.
Yeah, I've never actually been to Oshkosh, and I'm coming up on 13, like you already heard in the interview, and I've been bugging my dad. Like, we used to always be saying, yeah, we're going to Oshkosh this year. It never happened. And I've been, that's been I've been telling people, this is a present that I really want. This is something that, because for like a first, like an air show out of an Air Force base. Like, I live down in Arizona right now. And like the only air show I've ever been to was Luke Days. I've been to Luke Days a few times, and that's the only air show I've ever been to. So it's like, to be at an air show that's not at an Air Force base for the first time would be Oshkosh. That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, well, bring your walking shoes, because there is a ton to see at Oshkosh, and it is, if you like airplanes and everything, you'll be there for days, because there's all different kinds of things and tons of different things to see. And you make it out there next year, whenever you make it out, definitely keep in touch, let me know, and you want to come out and hang in the pit with us, and you can crew for me some and get everything going out there and hang out in the pit and meet everybody, meet all the other performers. The invitation's there. You make it out, definitely come.
If I'm ever at Oshkosh and you need some help and you see me, definitely come up. I would be more than honored to. Yeah,
definitely. Well, I'll get you. Like I say, you make it out there, let me know, and you can come out there and hang out in the pit and meet everybody and have some fun.
I think it'd be really cool to actually know someone. My dad, he knows Kirby Chambliss, and we flew to his house actually, and And I never really actually got to meet him because I was like 4 and I was really shy, so I never really ever said anything to him, so I can't really say, yeah, I met him and stuff, so, yeah.
Yeah, well, very cool. Well, Kirby's a heck of a pilot. Yeah, he lives down in that you guys' neck of the woods, yeah. So, yeah, that's really cool. And like I said, yeah, you get out to shows or anything. I'm working on trying to get some other shows down in Arizona for next year, too, but it doesn't look like very many of the military shows are going to be coming back next year, so it's so they're going to be kind of thin and far between.
Like the economy nowadays. I don't know if you're a Democrat or anything like Obama and stuff. I really don't. I actually do some research on this stuff and.
Yeah, I don't. I'm not an Obama fan.
Yeah, I'm not either. I'm probably gonna get tons of hate in the comments on YouTube for this.
Yeah. Don't put this part on YouTube.
Yeah, I won't.
Don't put this part on YouTube.
Yeah, no, not at all. But like, yeah, we're not having any. We're not having Luke days this year, or probably never again because budget cuts and.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. I hope I can see you soon at some air shows and everything because.
I hope so too.
Yeah, in about 3 years, I'm going to be moving to North Carolina, and hopefully
that'll be a big change.
What?
That'll be a big change from Arizona to Carolina.
Yeah. Hopefully there, like I can, like there maybe just maybe we could earn some extra money from like farming and stuff.
Right.
Like selling some stuff. Like my family in Michigan, I have some family in Michigan. They live on an actual farm, just without really all those animals and stuff. Like the only animals they have is chickens and cows. But like they make a lot of money on asparagus, and I always love going there too for the asparagus, fresh asparagus.
Very cool, man. Very cool. Well, like I said, for some reason, if you guys ever coming through, I'm just south of Joplin, Missouri, and if I'm around or something, and for some reason, if you guys are ever coming through my neck of the woods, look me up. I'm just south of here, and we can get you up in the Cub and go fly around and show you some of the comedy act and get you some flying in the Super Cub. It's that if you can fly the heck out of a Cub, you can fly just about anything.
That'd be awesome too because I haven't been flying in forever, so.
Yeah, well.
All right, well, thanks for doing this with me, Kyle.
Yeah, my pleasure. Anytime, man. If you got any other questions or anything, and we can hook up again like this, whatever you want to do, man.
All right.
I hope. I look forward. You have to send me a copy or something of your final report and how everything goes on it. I'll be anxious to see it. That's very cool.
Yeah, I'm working on the rough draft right now of it. The rough draft is a paper, but for my final thing, it's going to be a video. So yeah.
Excellent.
Thanks again, Kyle.
Yeah, you too, Jacob. You take care, man.
Yep,
we'll talk with you later.
All right, bye.